Hello, everybody. It's RM here on the Burnettwork, soon to be Imagination Connoisseurs Unlimited. And I'm here with Julian Mushkin. Julian, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself, RM?
I'm doing great, and I'm excited for this episode of our PGS Treks Season 3, Episode 2 of Picard spoiler review tonight. So, guys, I did put the spoiler banner at the bottom so you know that Julie and I are going to be talking about stuff that happened in the episode. For those of you who did not get a chance to watch the episode, just be aware that we are going to have some spoilers. They're not going to be anything I think most of you haven't already heard about what happens. But, gee, Julian, I enjoyed this episode so much. One of my favorite scenes was when Worf swooped in and saved Rafi, and I also liked the Starship Smackdown. That's what I'm calling it, a Starship Smackdown, along with the reemergence of Beverly. And I know that last week people were talking about why does it feel like the deck is so dark? Why is the ship so dark? And as far as I'm concerned, Julian, I know why it's dark. At least I think I know why. And I just assumed everybody thought this was the reason. It's because of all those illuminated panels, Julian.
Exactly. Yes. They kind of, when they designed how the interfaces were going to look, they kind of put themselves in a bind. If they want to be able to see what's on their screens, they can't have too much, ambient lighting in there, or else they're not going to be able to. They're going to have too many, like the reflections on my glasses here. It's just going to be ridiculous. They won't be able to see what's on their screens. So, I suppose one could make the same argument and say, oh, well, they had those, clear screens on the Enterprise D in Next Generation, and they had them pretty bright there too. Another thing I was thinking was it is possible that they are. It was established in TOS in TOS that in areas of the ship they will try to approximate daytime, nighttime by lowering the lights in certain areas of the ship. It's possible, given that the captain was having dinner when they showed up, that at least on the ship they're on, that they are in nighttime, and that's why it's so dark. It would be nice if they brought the lights up a little bit later to say, hey, it's the day shift type of thing. We probably won't see it, but right now that's kind of one of the reasons I'm thinking maybe it's like that. But yes, I also was thinking about the illumination being too bright for the screens. If it's one thing if they're up on the wall, but if they're on those panels on the tables, as the command stuff, yeah, bright lights would not be good.
Yeah, and like even from this shot here with Jake, you can see that they want you to see those panels, even in the background. They want those panels to kind of play a role in this series. And I think that one of the characters, let's say Captain Vadik, actually makes a comment about. I think she might have said "good afternoon" or something, whatever it is in whatever time of day it is in the galaxy. So it's very funny that you should say that.
That's right.
Yeah, and of course, a lot of the other episodes we've had, they've been incredibly well lit and bright. But this one, it's all about the panels, I think, and they really want us to keep looking at those panels for clues about what's going on, and kind of feel like we're part of this as we're kind of looking at the information and trying to figure out what really is going on, because it has been so much fun, even just looking at things like panels for this series so far. And in the start of the episode, we see Riker, Picard, and Jake do kind of meet on this Helios. We actually get a little background about Jake, but it's very interesting about this particular ship, and it's apparently a vessel that is used to or does provide medical attention. What do we know about the Helios? Julian, do we know anything?
What we're given in the show is that Jack and his mother were trying to deliver medical supplies. what we're hearing outside of the show is that they were doing some sort of, like Doctors, Without Borders type of thing of trying to aid sick in areas where the Federation is not, becoming involved in areas that are not part of the Federation. And that's about all we know for sure. Other than that, we don't have any other, history on, but we do find out later that it sounds like Jack has been running quite a few, different little scammies. It might, whether it was all involved in doing, delivering medical supplies, I don't know. Perhaps so, but he's certainly a shifty guy.
Yeah, there's a lot. We get this too. I think they jump back in time for about a few weeks before, and we do kind of find out that he's being hunted more or less, or they're being hunted. And even the people he does these dealings with, they don't really have very much respect for him because clearly they turn him in, and that must be what's happening as they're being chased. And once Riker and Picard kind of end up on his ship, he tells them, I didn't really send for you guys, and I had this stuff under control. I mean, honestly, Julian, did he really have this under control?
No. Other than maybe if they hadn't shown up, maybe they wouldn't have been found, but we don't know for sure. We don't know, but his impression was them coming to him brought everybody and their mother to them. But, because when we first saw them, they'd been being chased, and then they took off. She sent that message. We don't know how well she escaped from them. It's possible that they were going to be found anyway.
Yeah, and I was very scared for Beverly being in that pod, and I know it's supposed to help her, in stasis or whatever it is, this medical unit pod, if you will, where she's safe. But I was very scared that something would happen to it, and there would be some kind of mishap. And we know things can happen, especially when you're under pressure at a point where he was, and they are on this ship where it had been too close to the nebula. He tells Riker and Picard, we've been too close to the nebula. It's really kind of hurt, our ship. And, there's a lot of things we would normally be able to do, but we can't do them now because we've exposed the ship to, harmful radiation or whatever it is that's kind of damaged the ship. And at the same time, it is very interesting because, and I'm not going necessarily in order, but I think the LaForge character, the young pilot, she was so impressive. We saw some cool things, I thought, when, one ship kind of blocks the tractor beam block. I'm sure there's a term for it. And, she talks about blunt force trauma with a ship hurl. And she even makes a comment about, someone had said, it might have been the captain had said, well, what's going on now? She says, I don't know what the ship is doing, but it looks pissed. I just love her expressions. It's so much fun, like hearing her do this sort of thing. What did you think about how she handled the situation? She was on top of things, Julian.
Actually, other than that whole thing about the ship looking pissed and the Shrike, there's no way that ship can't look pissed. It's an angry looking, loaded for bear ship, and rightfully designed to look that way. But she was on top of it. She knows how to move her ship around, and she was probably her maneuvers probably helped save them from worse damage when the Ilios got hurled at them. I saw Robert's stream from last night, and he was talking about how when they were working on the Axanar project, they had done some ship scenes where they were having their Federation ship kind of do the same thing with parts of the Klingon vessels that they were fighting, where they were grabbing parts of. They used the phasers to shear off part of one of the warp nacelles, grabbed it with the tractor beam, and essentially hurled it at the other D6. And you could see the animatics if you go to Robert's page, and he said he was really impressed when he saw that scene the first time. He was just like, "Oh my God, they got it! We got it! We had it! We knew what we were doing." That was pretty cool. That was pretty impressive. It also it demonstrates the sheer strength of the Shrike. They've got a lot of power to be able to just catch it in a tractor beam and then hurl it through space at them. That's an awful lot of mass to be moving.
Yeah. It certainly is, and it also shows incredible maneuverability of, let's say, objects as large as a spaceship, so to speak. It wasn't sort of like a rock or anything like that. This thing is huge, what they did. And I think that also does show their ability to handle tough situations. This is not the first fight they've ever gotten into. Certainly they have experience. And, she's described as the marked woman by, one of the dealers, I guess earlier in the episode. He says, okay, let the marked woman know that Crusher is here. And I thought to myself, aside from the fact that it was kind of schemy to kind of out him where he was located, I'm wondering why she's called the marked woman. And you had mentioned this before too, Julian, that she has these Starfleet profiles. She's enjoying knocking the Federation around, and I think she really does do a great job. She said there's a bounty, for Jake. Is that all she's going to do, is to turn him in? It just feels like there's a little bit more to this than just grabbing a bounty.
Oh yeah, there certainly seems to be a lot more going on. And they want him alive, and I think there's more to it than that, than just some sort of bounties for his, that because he's wanted. She has other plans. I'm sure of it. We'll find out later. But the fact that she knows that Picard is an android, essentially, and why would she know that? She also knows the background. She knew the captain of the ship that she was dealing with before the Titan, before he even introduced himself, really. Or she had more information on him. As soon as he introduced himself, she knew what his history was, and alluded to some things that we will probably find out about a lot later. But why would she know these things unless they were planning to go up against the Federation, it seems. So
yeah, and she was and particularly stinging comment to Captain Shaw about his record and how, I guess he's not quite she's surprised that he's maybe even a captain.
Right.
Was incredibly insulting, and I think that might have also cut him down a little bit. He wasn't expecting anybody to challenge his record, since he's been going right and left and challenging other people's records, so to speak. It really is quite shocking to see that in the episode, but I thought it was interesting. And Rafi seems to be putting herself in harm's way just right and left. She's just witnessed one of the most terrifying things she's ever seen with I think it was Starfleet Recruitment Center that had pretty much been destroyed and then kind of redeposited in the same spot. Some very odd weapon where it just collapsed or fell through a hole. It was one of the most unusual things I've seen in a while. And of course, she pushes the limits even more when she kind of decides to contact, I'm assuming it's maybe her ex, who is surprised that she is still choosing a Starfleet over the family. What do you think about Rafi's motivations now? We saw earlier her looking at her granddaughter, and family is important to her. Why do you think Rafi, other than the addiction situation, is having so much trouble at this point? And why would she still be working with Starfleet, knowing all the trouble she's had?
I think working with Starfleet is part of her way of, I think, honoring promises that she's probably, because of her relationship with Picard, I think that she knows that the stability that she had with Starfleet was something that helped her overcome her addiction issues. And so I think that's why it's important for her to continue to working with Starfleet. I'm not sure what she was doing when she was working with Picard and before that. I don't know why she's now under in these covert ops things or why she got picked for that. Maybe it was because of her drug issues, which doesn't seem wise on the part of Starfleet, if you ask me. But it is kind of it's sad that her ex, makes her choose between Starfleet, or seeing, get her family, and it's like that's not fair. It's not fair at all. So he's not much of a help.
He isn't, and you can obviously tell as soon as they meet on the screen that they have history. I thought that was really good. They looked like they were an item once, and they really cared for one another. And he's kind of accusatory of her. He doesn't like, to be honest with you, I think he doesn't like that she's kind of running off and doing all this stuff still. And I can't blame him, because he obviously wants her to be with him. And of course, that's what you would want. You don't want your spouse to kind of be off doing these missions. But he even mentions how he had to choose the family over things that he wanted, and so on. So I feel bad for Rafi at that point, but I felt even worse for her when she put herself even in more harm's way dealing with that Ferengi. Unfortunately, things go sour, but boy, it felt good to see Worf swoop in like a knight in shining armor, and just so smoothly. You almost couldn't even see him moving around in the images, Julian. You could not see how smooth and quickly he was able to execute everything that he was doing. It was done so beautifully. What did you think about how Worf showed up at that moment? And of course, you and I had watched the episode together, so we saw it at the same time. But what did you think about Worf's just elegance as he comes in there and handles the situation in about 2 seconds? And it says, "Hey, I told you, don't engage." What did you think about Worf's introduction into this season?
I thought it was timely and it was pretty damn awesome. See, you just barely get, because I watched it again today, and you just barely get a glimpse of something behind one of Steed's guys, and then suddenly there's this blade coming through the guy's chest, and you don't even hear Worf. He is so smooth and quick. He's just, I mean, it's like he's on top of his game, and that is awesome. He is the warrior you need, and he's there. And I'm looking forward to finding out more about his story, what he's been doing since we last saw him, and it just, they keep on bringing the people in at the right time where you're gonna like, all right, we're gonna find out what's going on, and it just keeps on giving us a little bit more trickles of information coming in at the right time when we need them, and so far so good, I think.
Yeah, he was one smooth operator. That's how I would put it. And all you heard was the blade kind of
Yeah.
slicing and dicing, as I had said, slicing and dicing its way through. Just so smooth, so calm, and so under control that anybody could just close their eyes and not have a care in the world, because Worf is there. And I love that he was, he rescued her. I just love when I see characters rescue someone like that. It certainly does fill my heart with so much joy. Worf is there, and he's been there all along since episode 1, in the background, hoping that Rafi wouldn't go this extra step. But, thank goodness he was there. Thank goodness he was following her. He's obviously been following her all along. Will he explain to Rafi what on earth this weapon is and what exactly happened? Do you think he knows?
I don't know. I hope so. It will be a good method of exposition for us to find out more things if he has a little bit more handle on this than she does. But I expect that we will find out a little bit more of what's going on. But he can't have it all, or because he probably would have acted sooner if he had more information. So, obviously there's still going to be things missing, and they're bringing it together like jigsaw puzzle. So.
Yeah, it is very interesting. I do like how we kind of hear, again, back onto the bridge, the comments about law of physics, one law of physics outdoing another law of physics, law of physics versus law of physics. Which two are we going to use? Which two can do that? And I automatically think about vectors and forces and things like that, you guys who study physics. But it is very interesting to see that. And I guess maybe we'll see more stuff like that again. But of course, despite everything that happened in the episode, we learn about is it called the Shrike? And it's incredibly well armed. The Vadic character is almost laughing at the next scene, at least the one that I'm obviously cannot ignore, was the bombshell part where Beverly doesn't say anything, but she gives Jean-Luc that look that implies that there's this relationship between Jean-Luc and this young man, Jake Crusher.
Jack.
I think Riker kept saying, you don't recognize something similar about him.
Yes.
You're not getting this. And, and for somebody like me, as soon as I heard that, I said, oh, there must be something special about this person. But I'm sure everybody else was like, what are you saying? Are you saying that that's his kid? And it was a hell of a way for Jean-Luc to find out, or for it to even be implied towards him. And Jean-Luc, just like Beverly's kind of like looking at him like, you know whose kid this is. What do you think about the delivery of that information and how Jean-Luc responded to Jake being, held on the ship and not be allowed to, be transported to the other ship? What did you think about that entire scene?
I still want to hear from Beverly exactly what is the story with Jack. It's not a normal situation, and I'm still hoping there's something more than, oh, he's just your son. Because now I can I understand perhaps why she didn't tell him, because he was involved with Starfleet, because he was we don't know exactly when they became involved. He may have already become an admiral. But I'm sure that she felt that he would be, that a son would be a burden on him, and that she didn't want to, present him with, or there was something else going on. I've seen some people in other review shows. I've seen people's comments where they're like, "Oh, Beverly would never behave like that. It's just not her. It's just," and I'm like, 20 years have gone by, and we don't know what kind of influences were going on at the time that they got involved. So we don't know exactly what she might have been thinking of. So I'm waiting for her story to fully evaluate what happened, between the two of them and why. But it's enough for us to know that she sees Picard, he believes her, he feels it, he thinks it's true, so he says, nope, we're not letting them take my son. I understand that feeling also, but Shaw's got a point. It's like the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one, and Jack for 500 plus souls, I don't know if that's a tough decision to make, but I think Picard made the only decision that he could make. Well, I don't know if he's really within his bounds to actually make that as a retired admiral, but Shaw decided to go with it, and I'm not exactly sure what his motivation to suddenly decide, yeah, okay, we're doing this. You know, what what changed between we're going to hand him over and no, we're not, he's my son, and suddenly it's like, okay, we're doing this. And I'm not, and maybe we'll find out in the next couple of episodes why Shaw decided to make that um, decision. But it's intriguing to me because I'm like, well, yeah, it's the only decision Picard could make, but I don't know if it's the right one.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that Beverly has a lot of explaining to do. And, I think that at some point she would have to tell him. But to be told in this type of a situation, Julian, it's so uncomfortable. They're really kind of under the gun. I don't even know any other way to describe it, but no one wants to find out about, a child this way. And it is very, very disappointing that I'm happy that she has her son. I'm happy that the kid is okay. But what I mean is, having a kid is supposed to be a happy occasion. And this doesn't feel like it doesn't quite feel it. I'm not even quite sure about the feeling of it. Whether or not it is what it should be when you find out about, a child of yours. So this was kind of a very uncomfortable way of finding out that you're a parent. And literally, literally, you have to make split-second decisions. It was almost like, it's like you would like I'm not going to say it's emotional blackmail, but it kind of felt that way. It's like, well, guess what? You have to care more about this person because they're your child. And the other captain can say nothing to this. As soon as he finds this out, he's like, "Oh, great!" Like it's kind of like, "Oh, great!" This is the situation, and you can't blame Shaw for this. He realizes that he can't compete with the notion that this is that man's son, and anybody would react that way, even under the suspicion that this may be their child. So, I hope it's not a situation of manipulation in a sense. I mean, I don't believe Beverly would do that, but it feels kind of manipulative in a little bit. For it to come out in that way. And I think maybe that's why people were saying she wouldn't do that to him. She wouldn't put him in this position. I mean, just a few minutes before that, Shaw is talking about being cornered in space where there are no corners. And I think that, he's kind of like doing this math in his mind. But I also think Jean-Luc is also cornered in a space, where there's no corners. Now all of a sudden, he went on there, I think, primarily to find Beverly, only to find out that there was someone else there. And now he finds himself in an even bigger situation, having to get him out of this trouble. So, at one point it looked like Captain Shaw was in charge. But then you hear, Picard say engage or whatever.
Yes.
And it's like
suddenly assumed command.
Yes. What did you think about that scene where it's just like, screw this? He's like, damn the torpedoes, whatever you want to say. Picard just takes over. What do you think about that part?
Yeah, he pretty much took the prerogative. It's like Admiral's prerogative. I'm taking over. It was cool to see him in command like that. One of the things I found very kind of meta at the time was funny was when they're still on the Helios and Jack refers to him as, captain, right? He goes, some people think of you as captain. And it's kind of meta because so many people refer to him as Captain Picard in Fandom. It's only in since he started his series that he was Admiral Picard, and so it's kind of funny that they chose to have that little line, that little quip in there. I think we will find out that there's circumstances around Jack's conception that might not be above board. I think that there's things. It's possibility that Beverly was using genetic manipulation or something for this, and she may have felt ashamed about it. She didn't want anybody to know, or she didn't want to get any of her friends in trouble if she was caught doing it. And I'm looking forward to finding out what it is that brought about that circumstance. I'm sure we will find out soon. Every episode, it's a pleasure to look forward to the next episode of Star Trek.
Absolutely. It was honestly, it became quite an emotional situation because as soon as Picard took over and we knew the course of events, what was going to happen, we knew what was going to happen. It's funny because the Vadic character was not, I don't know whether she's even surprised by all this. I don't think she was expecting the Federation ship to go ahead and just, give up this individual. But at the same time, she's almost comical towards Picard and how he seems to be there in convenient situations. So she knows a lot about him too, which makes me think that she's studied a lot of his, previous engagements, so to speak, and knows him very well, knows the types of things that he would do. So as soon as she found out that he was involved, she knows she might be up for a challenge, but she's still laughing about it, Julian. She's laughing about it when she's going against all of that knowledge of people on that bridge, maybe one of the most experienced group of, you've got two or three captains, experienced captains, and a commander, 7 of 9, who has incredible amount of experience. How do you even compete against this, knowing very well that their combined knowledge is great? Perhaps the fact that she possesses some of the knowledge of these commanders and I guess officers, will it even out the field, in addition to the fact that she's got, an array of weapons? Sometimes having the weapons doesn't guarantee the win, but will it even out the field because she has that strategic advantage of knowing and maybe even studying some of their past engagements?
Well, yes, it certainly seems that she has a wealth of information at her hands. We are led to believe that she's been, if the information she already has, which it almost hints that she has psychiatric evaluations on Shaw. How did she get that, right? So she has more information than one would think she should have. So that is part of her confidence. Beverly, she seemed to know, who was after them. She also sent that message saying, "Don't trust Starfleet." So she thinks that there's something involved with Starfleet. So it's possible that Vedic is getting her information from a mole in Starfleet. She's on a ship that's loaded for bear. So as far as she can see, she has all the cards. And so whatever is driving her, she seems to think she's on top of the world and she can take care of this situation. So it'll be interesting to see how they get the upper hand on her. Right now, I'm thinking we're really going to be surprised and we're really going to be delighted with the results, because so far, I haven't seen gaffes in the writing that have made me go, what? What? Other than the whole thing in the brig where Jack was able to access something in his cell that allowed him to be able to manipulate that shield. I'm like, I don't get it. What was that? Why would you have any type of thing that somebody in the brig would be able to get at as part of the workings of the cell? That was a little bit too convenient. So
yes, and some of the comments in the chat are very interesting, but there's one thing that is also kind of interesting about Vadic is who are these crew members? All their faces are covered.
Yeah, that's really weird.
What does that mean for her? Because her face is not covered. She wanted them to see her she wanted them to hear her voices and her voice, so to speak. And, maybe her method of intimidation is just her smoothness. I could see Jake, if what they're showing us about his past is true, having dealt with her, sold her weapons or something. It's not so far-fetched knowing what he's done in the past. So although we do see that he kind of, maybe doesn't get permits and stuff, we haven't necessarily seen him do anything that, well, I'm not quite sure whether it would be, because they seem to imply maybe he's gone ahead and used, he has these weapons and he'll say, okay, I'm bribing you so you can sell this so I can make some money. But he doesn't seem like somebody who would have a huge bounty on his head, because what would the bounty be for? He provided medical attention and gave people weapons, which they could probably get somewhere else. Why was he bribing that person to sell those vaccines? Why wouldn't he just give the vaccines? This was, like, it's kind of
funny. He was bribing him so he could get through their blockade, or whatever it is that, why they're there. I was not exactly sure why they're there. Whether they were protecting the planet from interference or trying to, I'm not exactly sure why Fenris Rangers were there, but we were led to believe that, I don't even know, all we knew was from the first season was Fenris Rangers were involved in trying to aid, Borg who were being hunted and things like that. So I'm not exactly sure, and maybe that's a fault of the whole story setup from first and second season. We don't even know exactly what they were doing there, other than stopping him, kind of like police. So maybe they're hired police protecting the planet from interlopers, and or maybe they were there to enforce a blockade because of because of this plague he was talking about, the sickness they had. Either way, without the proper papers, he needed to bribe his way through, and he knew just what it was that they were looking for to be able to make that transaction. They had no problems with doing that. But it sounds like his rap sheet. He's got quite a few things going against him, especially all those AKAs, and the fact that there seems to be perhaps a death involved. We don't know. He said, "Oh, the guy's in stasis," but or whatever. He's hibernating. So.
We have a super chat, Bandit MD11 for a $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Bandit MD11 says, could that Ferengi that blamed Picard for killing his son have found out Picard now actually has a son and put a bounty out for him? Yeah, I guess so. What do you think, Julian?
I'm led to believe, well, no, I'm not led to believe anything because I don't know. My feeling is that no. I don't think that they're going to dig that far back in to bring out, a bad guy on this. I think it's something else. It's totally involved with whatever him and Beverly were doing, and it's possible that there's information that they have that's involved with with whatever it is that Vanek and the I almost feel that she is involved somehow with the weapons that were taken from Daystrom Institute. She's probably involved with that. Again, like I said, she has knowledge about them that she probably should not have so easily. And you get knowledge like that if you are planning to know your enemy. And I think that that's involved with that. And we've seen that somebody has already struck the Federation. They've said, look what we can do. And there's even a possibility that a message was sent to Federation Starfleet that they're just not letting people know about because it would freak people out too much. So, you know, they put out this news that it was like, oh, possibly this Romulan, you know, terrorists, but they know better. They know it wasn't, and they're probably scrambling to figure out what the hell they can do, you know, to defend against this thing. And we're going to find out a little bit more in the next couple of episodes.
Well, Julian, so overall, what are your last thoughts about episode 2 of season 3 of Picard? What are your last thoughts and concerns?
I like it. Like I said, I look forward to every episode so far. We've only seen 2, but they have not disappointed, and they've brought, you know, more things, more cards to the table, and I've just been delighted with what we're seeing so far. It hasn't put us into a situation where we're like, oh, you know, I just don't buy it. I don't buy it at all. No, they're handling a lot of this just very tightly, I think. Tighter than the last 2 seasons, that's for sure.
Certainly, and it was an exciting episode. Boy, it was great. We saw so many maneuvers, you know, between ships, between interactions between people. You know, there's a lot of explaining and on your toes the young Crusher had to do in order to handle the situation. And you know, he was snarky, but I guess Riker and Picard tolerated him. But I think in any other situation, you know, he would have been told to kind of know his place, but Beverly's life was on the line. So that was another difficult situation that Picard was in. First, he had to worry about Beverly. And then the next thing you know, he has to worry about someone he believes to be his son. So, you know, there was a lot at stake here for Picard, more than I think he thought he was going to be dealing with for sure. So, so there is that. But I enjoyed the episode very much too. And I'm so glad that they are kind of going in this direction. It's entertaining to see what we're seeing. It's fun to watch these episodes. I can't wait to see Worf's involvement in all of this. And, you know, I have a feeling it's going to get even better and better. You know, they just dove into that nebula, but we certainly do know that they've got a fight ahead of them if they can't elude Vadic. So there is that. Julian, where can people find you?
They can find me on Facebook right now, where, you know, Julian Mushkin, and that's where I am. I don't do the the Twitters or anything like that right now. So.
Okay. And guys, you can find me here on the Burnettwork. I am the creative content director, but you can also find me on my channel, Positive Fandom, as well as Lorena Creole's channel and the 1/6 Scale Man Network, guys. So on behalf of the Burnettwork and Positive Fandom and Julian and myself, just want to thank you all for tuning in. I am going to be doing Midnight Musings with Robert right after this at 12 midnight. Once again, Julian, thank you for joining me. I couldn't be a PGS Treks without you, Julian. And guys, live long and prosper. And for all of you out there, no matter where you are in the galaxy, always remember to please be kind. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Take care.